very faint, but you can hear the post-show music right now playing. You might be able to hear the drums. Now, I don't know if any of you were aware of this fun fact, this odd little tidbit about me, but my favorite ride, my absolute favorite ride at Disney World is Living with the Land. That's right, more than the Haunted Mansion, more than the People Mover, Living with the Land is an S plus tier ride. It is the best ride at Walt Disney World, and I will not hear any arguments to the contrary. What other ride at any of the Disney parks blends together a dark ride, an informational edutainment attraction, and an actual working greenhouse? Operated in a partnership with the US Department of Agriculture. I can only think of one off the top of my head, and oh yeah, that's right, it's in the Land Pavilion. It's Living with the Land. Now, I've been singing the praises of Living with the Land for a very long time. However, it may surprise some of you to know or to learn that I personally have never been on the Behind the Seeds tour. And if you're a Disneyland person without access to Living with the Land, one, I feel truly very sorry for you. And two, it's a backstage tour of the ride Living with the Land, where you get to walk through the greenhouses, see how they manage these plants, and maybe even taste a little bit of cucumber from the ride, which is what we did. It was delicious. Living with the Land cucumber was great. And I guess that's a spoiler alert, but whatever. This last recent trip that I went on to Walt Disney World 2 weeks ago, at the time of you watching this, I finally was truly, for the first time ever, living with the land, because I went on the Behind the Seeds tour and I learned so much more about my favorite ride at Walt Disney World, and I learned some valuable lessons about farming and agriculture and the planet along the way. And today I wanted to go behind the seeds with you, my friend, show you what I saw, tell you what I learned, and most importantly, listen to that wonderful exit music. Can't get it out of my head. The day started out very similar to all of my other Epcot days that I enjoyed. We scanned in at the front gate, took a look at the really neat Festival of the Arts, or FARTS sign featuring Figment the Purple Dragon, everybody's favorite mascot for Epcot, before heading deeper into the park. This day was a very rainy day, and while I like a good rainy day, it usually drives away the crowds, it was also cold, and you would think that the lines would be short because of this, but my friends, oh no. The lines were about average, maybe a little higher than average. And after checking out the construction progress on my beloved Test Track 3.0, allegedly opening in August of this year, 2025, you heard it here first, folks, is the rumored opening date for Test Track 3. We headed toward the Land Pavilion, the mecca of Epcot for people like me. All right, so I am in the very busy opening queue space for Soarin'. We're about to check in for the Behind the Seeds tour. I'm hoping to film as much of it as I can. That will keep you all sort of updated on how it goes. I'm very excited. It's my first time ever doing Behind the Seeds. So I guess we'll see how it goes. I'm very excited. If you've never done it before, I just recommend having a reservation. They do tend to sell out because why wouldn't it? It's the best ride at Epcot. You get your handy dandy tour guest badge to let security know not to tackle you on site if they see you backstage, and then you head behind the ride. And this was probably my favorite part of the tour, I gotta say. It's very faint, but you can hear the post-show music right now playing. You might be able to hear the drums. Now, just a forewarning on this video, I'm not going to be giving you a play-by-play on what happens during the tour. I think you, my friend, watching this right now, that's right, you, pointing at yourself, you need to go on this tour and experience it for yourself. It's a wonderful time. But in this first room your tour guide will lead you to, they take you backstage toward the end of the ride, and you get to see the integrated pest management system at work with the smallest wasps I have ever seen in the world. They're little tiny, you'd mistake them for fruit flies, but they're wasps, apparently. Before you're able to see the 8th wonder of the world, the backside of the testing facility from the end of the attraction. I'm telling you, it just gets better and better from here on out. So it's here you learn about the integrated pest management system of the ride, or as you remember hearing while they're playing all the videos during the transition scene between the dark ride and the greenhouses, how they use insects like ladybugs and wasps to help control the amount of pests that are in the greenhouse, sort of eating the leaves or eating some of the fruit at a time. There are pests in the greenhouse, however, they're mostly good pests in a way. It's sort of weird to explain. I'm sure the tour guide could do a much better job of explaining it, but you know, not all pests are bad. Some help the growth of plants, and that's really interesting to learn about. And then you head, my friends, into the greenhouse, and this is when they really kick it up to 11. It's really fun to be in the greenhouse, to look down into the aeroponics system that they have, where the kale is just rotating around and around on a track with the roots exposed. That's really neat, but it's also, like I said, a little bit awkward, because you get to watch the guests as they go by slowly on their Living with the Land boats, while they look at you, and you look at them, back and forth, for about 30 seconds until the next boat comes along. You get to meet a really neat folding plant named Stanley. His leaves fold up when you touch him. That's why they call him a folding plant. Now, Stanley may or may not have been my personal highlight for the tour, just gonna say that. Or, you know, it could also just be the cucumber. The cucumber, like I mentioned before, fresh from the ride, was really neat. No, but in all seriousness, I think my favorite part of the Behind the Seeds tour is learning more specifically about living with the land. Like, you see the sand in the sand gardens, how meticulous it is. You have to wear special foot coverings when you walk in the sand. You don't get to, the cast members get to. And apparently the depth of the sand holders, basin, the sand box is 5 feet. That sand that you see there is 5 feet above the sort of ground level where everything is planted. So you could dig down 5 feet before you reach the bottom. That's kind of cool. Also a little unnerving knowing how much sand is there now.
The sand itself is 5 feet deep. I had no idea. Wow.
You get to see the hybrid fish in the fish farm, the shrimp, all of the Mickey-shaped things. However, I do have one sort of nitpicky complaint about the tour, and it's not the tour guide's fault or Disney's fault or anything, it's just what the tour is centered around, based around. You learn so much about the greenhouses and the plants and the methods and the fish and everything that you don't get to see behind the scenes or any fun facts or learn any history about the attraction. None of the dark ride scenes are featured on the tour. You do not get to go behind the scenes for the dark ride portion of the ride. And I know they don't advertise it like that, it's mostly about the greenhouses, but I would have loved to see something, anything relating to the dark ride portion of the ride. I mean, we could have gone behind or into the facade of the house in the prairie scene, being able to see finally what is inside the Living with the Land house. There is a bedroom on the top floor that you can see from the Garden Grill, but you never get to see what, if anything, if any theming at all, is on the bottom floor of the Living with the Land house. That would have been really neat, but like I said, that's extremely nitpicky. That's just me being a Living with the Land and Epcot historian fan. The tour guide did go on to mention, though, that the ride used to be called Listen to the Land and how it used to be sponsored by Kraft Foods and how all that sort of stuff happened, but not really any fun facts about the dark ride. But the best part of the tour, my favorite part of the tour by far, was the big greenhouse dome room. It's the last room you enter on the tour, and you get to see everything. You get to see the vastness of the room because you can take your time and look around, and you can also see the giant breadfruit tree. And no, you do not get to try the breadfruit. I didn't ask, but she didn't offer, so I didn't want to make myself into an annoyance. Oh, and I should mention, the entire time you are on this tour, like other tours at Disney World and Disneyland, you do have a little earpiece, so the tour guide isn't yelling, and you don't have to yell at the tour guide in order to be heard. Everyone can just sort of talk to each other, keep their voices down, be respectful to the other guests, which I actually really, really appreciate. That's kind of cool.
I'm learning so much about living with the land I never knew. I didn't even think that was possible.
We got to see rock wool, which is stone that is sort of spun like cotton candy that they grow the plants in. That was crazy. And to round out the games, there was also a spice test where our amazing tour guide handed out spices that were grown on the attraction, and we had to guess which ones they were. I feel like I got maybe like 3 out of 5 right, which I would hope is passing. I hope that's a passing grade. I can't fail anything Living with the Land related. Now, here's something new that I learned. Do you all remember the part in the ride, if you've ever been on it, where the narrator says,
"Our small fish farm produces nearly 5,000 pounds of fish each year to serve in restaurants around Walt Disney World."
Now, I always wondered what he meant by this. How are different restaurants getting the food or produce that they need from Living with the Land to use in their dishes? And I actually learned behind the scenes that different restaurants around Walt Disney World can request different vegetables or fish or fruits or any sort of produce from Living with the Land for a dish. Victoria and Albert's uses it a lot, the Flying Fish restaurant uses it a lot, and they also use these different ingredients for festivals, mostly during festivals. If you ever see a hibiscus lemonade or microgreens on anything, those come from Living with the Land, and I thought that's really interesting. Chefs at these restaurants can request what sort of things they want from Living with the Land to put in their dishes. So the next time you're at the Garden Grill or Sunshine Seasons, know that pretty much everything that you're eating there that is found within Living with the Land was harvested from Living with the Land, and I think that's really, really neat. I know maybe Knott's Berry Farm still does something similar with this, with boysenberries, but I think that's the only other theme park that has food grown on the premises used in actual food served at the parks. That's awesome. That's why it's the best ride. Shouldn't have to explain myself. Now, I gotta admit, this tour might not be for everyone. It's not as crazy as, you know, the Keys to the Kingdom, where you get to go behind the scenes, the utilidors under the Magic Kingdom, and you get a lunch included with your tour. It's not 5 hours long like the Keys to the Kingdom. However, it is a lot cheaper. Where Keys to the Kingdom can max out at $170 per person, Behind the Seeds is only $45 per person at its most expensive. That's the most expensive price you can find for the tour. And like I said, you don't get a lunch, you get a cucumber. And I mean, the cucumber is great, but it is a much shorter tour. But for people like me who just live, breathe, eat, and sleep living with the land, it's absolutely worth every penny. Even though when I say every penny, I think I paid maybe $55 for me and my wife to both go on this tour, but it's still worth every penny. But I think the most important part of this tour is not learning the history for the ride or behind the scenes of the ride. It's learning about how Disney grows these plants and how you yourself can grow these plants and live with the land truly at your very own home. They even have a little QR code that you can scan for a behind the seeds packet telling you how you can replicate some of their growing methods from your very own home. And Patreon people, if you want to see me truly live with the land, those videos will be coming out as soon as the weather gets warmer. Let's just say that. Wrapping things up here now, would I recommend Behind the Seeds to someone who's not really a huge fan of living with the land? It depends on what else you might be a fan of. If you have a garden at home, you're into horticulture, or you're interested in a behind-the-scenes look at one of Epcot's original attractions, it's changed names, but the ride itself remains largely the same, I would highly, highly recommend going Behind the Seeds. Like I said, it's very cheap. If you're a Living with the Land fan like myself, I consider it a must-do. It's sort of a rite of passage, I would say, now that I've done it. Now that I'm in the in-group, I can tell other people to join the club, go Behind the Seeds, and become a true Living with the Land fan. Truly live with the land. But now I am going to turn the question over to you, my friends. Have you ever done the Behind the Seeds tour at the Land Pavilion at Epcot? If you have, what did you think of it? Do you think it was maybe a little too short, maybe a little bit too long? Do you wish they explored more of the ride beyond just some of the greenhouses and the fish farm? Maybe checking out some of those dark ride scenes? That's my one complaint. And if you're one of my Disneyland friends, or you've never been on Behind the Seeds, have you ever been on a Disney World or Disneyland Behind the Scenes tour? If you have, let me know which one you've done down in the comments. I want to hear about these, because I also have done the Happiest Haunts tour, which Disneyland offers during the Halloween season, and that was pretty fun. You get a fast pass, or should I say Lightning Lane for Haunted Mansion Holiday, and you get to learn about how they dress the park up for Halloween. It's a lot of fun, but those are the only two I've ever done. Have you done one? And if you have, what did you think? Comment below, and please be sure to let me know. And now that I am finally, truly living with the land, I have decided to take things into my own hands. Matters into my own hands. As you can see here, I have a pack of spearmint seeds. I am done with Disneyland having a monopoly on mint juleps. I'm tired of having to fly all the way to Anaheim, California to get a delicious mint julep. So why not, now that I am truly living with the land, make my own mint juleps with my own mint grown at home with the paper towel roll. Somehow this is gonna make mint juleps. Just trust the process. It's gonna be really hard getting the lemon lime out of this packet, but I'm gonna figure it out somehow. And until that day comes, I will see you all at Disneyland. That's right, live from the park next week. Not this week, next week. I have to actually go there first, take a plane, and then get off the plane. And then of course gotta have some Bengal barbecue, but then I will see you all at Disneyland after that fact. End card time. Hey there, everybody. Bit of a different video this week, and I know I've said that a couple, weeks in the past, but I am trying to do some different sort of content around here. If you enjoyed this video talking about the Behind the Seeds tour at Epcot, please be sure to hit the like button, and if you're new around here and you want more videos like this, please be sure to subscribe. You can also follow me over at patreon.com/offhanddisney. You can get early access to videos there and exclusive access to a couple of videos, one that I might have teased in this video. So just keep an eye out for that. If you're on Patreon already, just keep an eye out for that. Once the weather gets warmer, you'll have that exclusive video, but I also have one relating to the Pandora expansion at Disneyland coming very soon. I'm very excited for you all to see that one. However, if you'd rather just follow me for free, I don't blame you at all. Absolutely no problem. You can follow me on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I am at Offhand Disney on all of those websites. Just makes it a little bit easier for you to find me. My friends, however, that is the end of this week's video. As I sort of mentioned earlier, I am going to be at Disneyland this upcoming weekend. The day after you see this, I will be at Disneyland, and I'm going to film a lot of stuff. The new parade, I'm going to be filming some Lunar New Year stuff, and some Pandora, Disneyland Forward stuff. All of that, I should say 90% of that you will see here on the channel, 10% of that you will see in the form of Patreon exclusive videos. So I cannot wait to head over there. It's been a second. It's been since D23 since I've been there. So I'm excited to see all the stuff that is currently under construction. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.